Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. It's good to be back with you. I hope you are doing well. You can listen and watch me on Rumble and YouTube. And you can follow me on X. Please like, share, and subscribe because it does feed the AI algorithm. And lastly, please post your comments and questions below. It would be wonderful to hear from you. It's great to be back with you for this new episode. And let's jump right into it. As I go to it here, need a couple clips. A few clicks to get through. All right. So from the Nation's Restaurants News, this article titled 4 Challenges to Address as AI Takes Over the Restaurant Industry. And of course, it will. Let me get some coffee. It's early for me here. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so AI is going to take over. It'll be a process. Before you even get into the article, I suspect it's going to be a process. Just like any other industry where it'll take some time. Restaurant industry is also known as being a, what do they call it in entrepreneurship? Volatile industry. I think that's the term. It might be another term. If you know, go ahead and comment below. But anyway, the restaurant industry has low margins. And so it's real easy for them to get into a situation where their costs are greater than their revenues. Right. So in simple terms, you might, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but your profits are going to stem. They're going to derive from revenues minus costs. And so currently right now in the restaurant industry, as the article will explain, their employees take up a lot of those costs. Plus they have food's a large cost as well. So the business model is very different from, let's say, a software company where the costs are fairly low and the revenues are high. I think if you get 15% in the restaurant industry for profits, you're doing really, really good. That's probably unheard of. But let's continue on here. This takes place at an education session at the National Restaurant Association. Panelists discuss the challenges behind the AI and robotics revolution by Joanna Fantazzi. Article begins. Although it seems like AI and robotics have penetrated many aspects of restaurant operations, the truth is that the hospitality industry is still in the early stages of implementation. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think most industries are. They're still in it, in the early stages. Article continues here. In fact, according to recent data from the nation's Restaurant News Intelligence Tech Market Leader Report, 63% of operators do not currently use AI. I'm surprised that it's even that high. So that'd be what 37% there. Yeah, so 7. Yeah, so 37%. 7 goes into 63, so that'd be 73. Yes. Yeah, so top of my head, 37%. So I'm surprised that 37% of operators are using AI. I thought it would have been lower than that. I really did. That's kind of crazy to me. But I didn't think AI was that deeply embedded yet. into the restaurant industry, hospitality. Right, hospitality industry could also be like hotels. I believe Airbnb would also be considered in the hospitality industry as well, since they compete with hotels. And that's the same type of thing going on there, business model. Anyway, article continues here. At the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago, experts and operators explored the questions and challenges around AI and robotics for the average hospitality operator during the revolutionizing hospitality, the journey of AI and robotics in enhancing guest experiences. Education session, the most simple issue, internet connectivity. Oh yeah, so they missed a period here. Right there, they missed a period. Gotta check that grammar. See, the article continues here with the quote. I can tell you what keeps me up at night, losing the internet. Bob Shallow, Senior Vice President of Diversified Restaurant Group, said during the panel discussion. Goes on to quote here. When I've lost the internet, that doesn't make any sense. They did not check their grammar. So I'll just ad lib it here. When I've lost the internet, I've lost the capability to run my restaurant. Back in the day, we just had cash registers, but the reality is that when I've lost the internet, I've lost my restaurant. So we're now drastically trying to get that up and going. Yeah. Especially if you have components, electronics in a restaurant that are depending on internet connectivity, and you lose that, yeah, that could become an issue. That also adds a dimension of complexity to your business. It adds an extra cost. AI products will add an additional layer of complexity to the already added complexity, and it'll add costs. The idea is that they want to get their costs down, so people think, well, AI robots will come in and automatically replace workers. But it only makes sense to replace workers with that technology if the cost is lower. Because again, the restaurant is trying to increase their profits so they can stay in business. If they have no profits, they're going to go out of business eventually. That's just how it works. When you increase the minimum wage, that's a cost on the business, any business. And in restaurants, that's a major cost that increase their costs. Let's say they have the same revenues coming in. Well, that's going to decrease their profits if they're making profits. Now, I've heard people say, well, this is a bit of a tangent. So I've heard some people say, well, maybe they shouldn't be in business then because they don't know how to run a business. I think people who say that have never run a business before. If a business is making profits, they can keep their employees employed. Let me say that again. If the business is making profits, they can keep their employees employed. If they're not, well, that's when they have to start laying people off. Or if they increase the minimum wage. I read an article about 4 years ago when California raised its minimum wage in San Diego. San Diego restaurants were forced to increase their minimum wage. They let people go, and they managed to give. And so the people that didn't get let go, they essentially got a raise, but they had to let other people go. So now those people are unemployed. That's a consequence of that policy. Let me get some more coffee. So back to the point of AI and robotics, it's still going to cost money. Somebody has to maintain the AI and the robots. In any type of engineering field, in any type of engineering process, the maintenance part of the process um, is an important part, and it's actually the longest part of any engineering process. Maintaining machines, maintaining roads, maintaining robots, maintaining software. And it can get kind of expensive. So even if this technology is what people think it is, it's still going to cost money to maintain it. Somebody's got to maintain it. So okay, it replaces your employees. Let's say it replaces 3 of your employees who make $15 an hour. But now you have to hire somebody to maintain it, and you have to pay them $50 an hour. How's that taste? Didn't think of that. But it's good that they're getting together and they're starting to talk about this stuff. So here, I did read this. Yeah, so yeah, cash register. So he's having internet issues. Article continues here. Besides losing internet connectivity, here are some of the current roadblocks and limitations that were discussed. Employee displacement fears. Yeah, so I kind of just talked about this, but articles can get into a little bit different from a different angle. So article continues here with discussions around AI and automation. Eventually, the topic of employee replacement will come up. If you have voice AI in the drive-through lane, do you need headset wearing employees too? If you have kiosks, I've seen those at McDonald's and other places, QR codes and AI answering the phones, do you need as much labor in the front or back of house? Those are good questions. Excuse me. Yeah, so the article quotes here. When we first turned on AI ordering, we had guests asking if we had eliminated a position in the restaurant, and employees nervous about job elimination. But we said that this will be more of a job enhancer. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Again, I believe I said in the previous episode that AI would destroy a lot of jobs, but it'll end up creating a lot more jobs than it destroys, like computers. Every revolution, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, computer revolution, has had that behavior where the agricultural revolution just gave people jobs. People really didn't have jobs per se in the modern sense. The industrial revolution, what's this? This statistic's probably not right, but I heard something like 96% of all people were farmers before the industrial revolution, and now it's 4%. But our economy has grown leaps and bounds exponentially, especially in the United States. If we go, we go back, 150 years. All of our ancestors were farmers for the most part. And today we have specialties, engineering specialties, science specialties. People who drive trucks, the trades, welders, electricians. The economy has grown immensely since the Industrial Revolution. It destroyed labor jobs out in agriculture, but it created all these industrial jobs. And it's changed our lives. We are all better off for it. So the article says, quotes here, when we first turned on AI ordering, we had guests asking, okay, so I read that part. So I had to go on here. I'll just read it again. When we first turned on AI ordering, we had guests asking if we had eliminated a position in the restaurant. The employees nervous about job elimination. But we said that this will be more of a job enhancer. Okay, I agree with that, Shallow said. The quotes here, the quote continues. The reality is everyone still has a role, but we are going to be executing more efficiently. I agree. Because we have to find efficiencies within our P&L, profit and loss statement. That's what P&L means. So there's still a role for you, but that role might look different. Yeah, you're gonna acquire a new skill set. That's what's gonna happen. And that's something you probably won't hear about with most of, but especially in the news, that the responsibilities of the workers will change. What they're going to have to, their skills, what they're going to have to know will change. You'll probably still have a job of flipping burgers and stuff like that, but the other jobs around it, those will change. How they interact with the technology, that will change. The dynamics of how they interact with the technology and how they interact with the customer, that will change. It will change because a new thing, in this case AI, is being implemented into the system. A new component, if you will. And when new things or new components or new software is put into a new system, implemented into the new system, that changes the dynamics of that system. The system changes. Anyway, let's continue with the article here. However, it's a complex issue, and not everyone agrees. Panelist Ryan Hicks, CEO of Franchise Supplier Network, said that unfortunately, the advent of AI and automation does mean that some positions will be eliminated. Yes. Yes, that will happen. We'll grab some more coffee. Man, coffee in the morning is the best thing. It really is. Yeah, positions will be eliminated for sure. That'll happen. And most of the other positions will change in responsibilities. Again, the dynamics of the business model is going to change, and the employees, people who work within that business model, some positions are going to be eliminated. There's going to be some new positions, and the positions that remain are going to change, which is true of any system, business system. Just for insight clarity, the reason why I tend to know about this is because I've run businesses in the past, both non-technical and technical businesses. So that's why I seem to have some greater insight into these things than the average engineer. Anyway, article quotes here. I would say the goal is actually to eliminate some jobs if you're talking about offsetting labor costs. Again, that's what I talked about earlier, labor costs. Hicks said, this has been the story with new technology time and time again. That's right. But there's also new job creation along with the technology. Absolutely. More new job creation than job destruction. If you're interested in this topic, you could just put in creative destruction in your favorite web browser search engine and read up on this topic. Creative destruction. It's good. It's a good term to know about. I don't know if I would do maybe I should do a video just on creative destruction. Maybe I should. That might be worthwhile because at least we can reference it. I don't know how exciting it would be, but yeah. Yeah, so he says job creation along with the technology, the same type of scary technology that can displace people in the workforce can also help you recruit other people in the workforce. Yeah, that's right. Remember the example I used earlier? If you remember, I'm going to grab some coffee again. You lay off 3 people that were making $15 an hour. And then you hire a person you have to hire the person to maintain the robots and the software. $50 an hour. Right? Did you save any money? on labor costs, or did it accidentally get more expensive? Right. The goal is to decrease labor costs, increase your revenues. That increases your profits, your margins. But the example I gave, that doesn't do that. It doesn't mean it won't. I mean, it could. Again, that's just one situation. But yeah, it's something to think about. Something you won't read about in Fox or CNN. They just don't have those insights. They don't have that experience. Will restaurant industry become much more techy? Yes, it will. Yeah, it'll be much more commonplace to run into mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers who work in restaurant industry. And regarding software engineers, I'm not just talking about people who do web development. Those are web developers, which can be a form of software engineering, of course. But you're going to run into people who are actually programming software for robots. And that's a whole different animal right there. A lot different skill set than what you get with web development. Even back-end web development. So article here, a new section, the computer is not perfect. I'll agree with that today. Yeah. Well, no, the computer has a function. It's built for a reason. It has a purpose, a function, right, for what it's built for. Outside of that function, here's a ridiculous example. Would you use a computer to hit a baseball? No. And do computers break down? Yeah, they break down. They do. They get old. They get too old, like 10, 11, 12 years old. I suggest you overwrite your Windows or your Mac OS up and with a Linux operating system. Your computer will run for another 10 years. I promise you. Anyway, article continues here. Ironically, even though a major purpose of AI is to take on menial or time-consuming tasks, I wouldn't phrase it like that. I would say repetitive tasks. Repetitive. So if you have to do something over, let's say you have to do something over and over and over again, and it deals with technology, that would be a good use case for a computer. If you have to do it over and over and over again. And the steps that you have to take are very obvious. Like you will do this, then you will do this, then you will do this, then you will do this. That would be a good use case for a computer. If you're doing things that kind of changes every single time, and there's always a little bit different, then that's probably not a good use case. Right now, anyway. So let's continue here. It actually takes human labor to teach it to do so. Yeah. Bob Shallow said that at his restaurants where he added voice AI in the drive-through lane, you might be greeted by a computer, but the human being is listening in to take over if the conversation strays too far from the capabilities and scripting of the artificial intelligence. After all, AI has its limitations. Yes, it does, especially in this stage of the technology development. Yeah, so I was speaking of limitations. So as I get further along in these videos, I find new ways to create thumbnails for the videos. And so far I've been just kind of doing it by hand, trying to be creative with it. And the thumbnail for this video was actually my first AI generated thumbnail, where I use a prompt. And I used it. I got the thumbnail from Deep AI, is the website I used, or the engine I used in order to create the thumbnail for this video. It's okay. It's not bad. I ran through a few permutations, variations of what I was trying to get at. Robots taking over a restaurant industry. Um, Ended up including some Avenger, might look a little bit Avengerish, a little bit comic booky, right? It's trying to get. I was trying to get the AI to give me something where it was robots serving people. That's what I was trying to get at. A part of this process is knowing how to interact with the technology. So I've had a lot of experience underneath the hood dealing with the mathematics and the computational side, but not interacting with the AI on top, right from the interface. So that takes a little bit of time to jump into that and get that to do what you want it to do. It's like learning a computer. And so my first impression is, well, yeah, which is kind of what I thought before. A lot of this conversation over AI right now is really overblown. If you were to ask me about OpenAI, let me get some more coffee. Hold on a second. I would say there's nothing there. It's just a lot of money being poured into something that's not there. One of the reasons why I believe that is because I just don't hear the words that I would hear from other engineers. When you build a product, you'll hear words like testing and validating. I've never heard those words uttered by Sam Altman or other people who work for that company who I've haven't interacted with, but I've seen their posts on social media. I never hear those two words, and that's what I would expect to hear from an engineer who's building a product. Test and validate. I've never heard those two words ever. I listened to an interview. I was driving out of town for work last week, and I listened to Sam Altman on Lex Fridman podcast. 4-hour interview. I only got through 2 hours of it. It's kind of the same thing over and over again. And I was waiting for him to utter those two words. If you're building something, you're testing and you're validating it. Didn't hear those two words. Same thing's going to happen here in the restaurant industry. You're not just going to implement AI and robotics. They're going to have to test and validate it. Find use cases in the margins where it doesn't work, right on the outer edges. Right? Most of the time it does work. Well, what if it doesn't work in this case? Well, what if it doesn't work in this case? Those are called use cases. Those are outliers. That's the type of language I would expect to hear from people building AGI. I'm not hearing any of that. None of it. Those words have not been uttered. So I'm deeply suspicious of what's going on. This is why I'm very much pro AI, anti-regulation on this topic. I'm not saying we can't have reasonable, regulations. Depending on who's passing it. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican passing it. Do you understand the topic? Are you talking to people who actually have experience in developing products out in the market? I don't care if they went to an Ivy League school. Do they have experience out in the marketplace building products? When I listen to them speak, can I tell, oh yeah, that person has experience out in industry. That person has worked on products. That person has tested and validated their software, their hardware, the interaction between the software and the hardware. Those are the types of things I'm expecting to hear. Now, if a couple policymakers the Democrat and Republican said, yeah, that seems to make sense. I would say, okay, this makes sense. It doesn't hurt other businesses, right? You minimize the risk, you optimize the opportunities, or you maximize the opportunities. That's a good policy. Minimize the risk, maximize the opportunities. That'd be a good policy. So here, they're going to have to test and validate in restaurants. You can't just throw it in and it works. It's not the way the real world works. It's not how these things work. They have to test. And oh boy, they're going to test. they're gonna test and validate over and over and over and over again. That's the way it works. Never ending process of testing and validating. Will it work 100% of the time? Nope, it will not. Once it gets out into the wild, whoever the engineers are who are working on these technologies, they're going to find use cases. They're going to get a phone call. Hey, your robot didn't do this in this situation. Okay, I'll look into it. Hey, we found a bug in your software. All right, I'll get right to it. So just to give you some insight into what's going on here, this stuff's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love this stuff. But there's also let's go talk to the engineers in industry who have actually worked on products and see what they have to say about this. Not a bunch of people who have watched Terminator. And that's what they based their public policy off of. Skynet. All right. So article continues here, quote, the team member now is actually more productive because they're listening, but doing another task. Cool. And if the computer cannot analyze or understand what the human is asking for, generally the team member does. Right. That's a use case. That's an outlier. In this situation, excuse me, the team member can take over and say, oh, okay, yeah, I can help you with that. Because AI and robots, they're not going to cover every single they're not going to be able to cover every possibility because there are going to be use case outliers. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of interaction between the employees and the technology. So maybe AI isn't going to take over the restaurant industry like people think it is. Maybe it's not going to wipe out an entire generation of jobs. Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. Data readiness. Yep, here's another thing to consider. In order to be able to invest in AI and robotics, one major component that many operators have not invested enough in is understanding how to mine, collect, and analyze data from various elements of their tech stack. In this case, the tech stack could be all the technologies they're using together. So register, online presence, robots in the store, AI. That'd be one instance of a tech stack. All the technology that they use. Can they mine, collect, and analyze data from all those sources? Right. Which, by the way, adds another component to the business. Now you have other employees you have to pay for that data. Unless you go with a third party, with another business, somebody else started another business and say, you know what, I can help you with that problem. It'll be cheaper for you. You won't have to hire all these people. You just hire my business. We'll take care of all the data for you. That's coming. That's coming. It's probably already here. Article quotes here, you have to have your data in order. That's right. Doing a data readiness exercise, for example, Hicks said, if you don't have your data warehouse in order, that's where all the data is collected and cleaned and processed and sent out to various in software engineers called stakeholders. people who would be interested in that data. Like you could send it to the data science team, they would do something with it. Send it to the marketing team, they would do something different from the data than the data science team. You send it to the decision makers in the business, to be upper higher management, project manager, product manager, um, maybe division head, something like that. I don't know. Depends on the organization of the business. Let's see here. You have to have your data in order doing a data readiness exercise, for example, Hicks said. If you don't have your data warehouse in order, then you're not going to be able to action it, whether it's marketing or anything else. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Kind of said a short version of what I just said. Costs. Mentioned that a couple times. Article says right now, a lot of the most exciting AI capabilities from generative AI run back of house operations to robot fry cooks. Interesting. Are at a price point that's out of reach for many operators. Right. I imagine for most people that are just getting into the restaurant industry can't afford any of this. They're not making enough money yet. Don't have enough profit, enough capital. Right, profit would be translated into capital in some instances. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, so let me grab some coffee. Oh yes, price point. So I imagine if you had a franchise, your price point could be affordable for tech, robots, AI, stuff like that. If you had a franchise, because that would come as a part of the costs for buying into the business. You know, like Subway's a franchise. I think there's some McDonald's that are franchisees. They're franchisees. When a person buys a franchise, they buy everything that comes with it. So a franchise would be able to afford, because they're selling their franchisees at a larger number than, let's say, just one business. Now you're selling 50 of them. That could bring the price point down. And so that would be a way a person could get into accessing these types of technologies, which also bring a whole new set of headaches with just, rather than just starting a traditional restaurant, now they have all these other things they need to consider. They have all these other skills they need to learn. So it would be challenging, really challenging, probably worth it, but really challenging at the same time. So that would make it accessible for a lot of operators trying to get into the restaurant industry via franchise. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Let's see. The panelists seem to think that even though it seems like pay to play right now, the cost will eventually come down. The challenge historically has been, how do we get the cost down and make that digestible? Right. That's for any business. And I think that we're there in a couple of years. Okay, that's a weird way to say things. They got to do a better job with these articles. The missing a period, other weird quotes, stuff like that. I mean, it's a useful article because there's a lot of interesting information in it, assuming that whoever wrote it got it right. It's just Joanna. That's right, it's Joanna. But definitely have to do some spell checking on this stuff. They should be spell checking this. Hicks said, adding that he suggests that operators start small with AI and invest in automated marketing programs, for example, instead of jumping straight to robot line cooks. Yeah, you want to move your way up from one level to the next and the next. An easy way to jump from A to Z would just be go through a franchise. I imagine the franchises will be the first to actually implement all that at once. If you're just starting your own single business, your own brick and mortar restaurant, you're going to have to build it up over time, because the price point right now in the market's just too high. It just doesn't make sense to add into your business model. So anyway, that's that article. I thought that was interesting. Listen to see what they have to say from the restaurant industry about AI and robots coming into their industry. hospitality industry, and see where it's going. I honestly didn't consider the franchise um, idea or point until I went through the article, and then it just popped into my head that a franchise could be an easier way to get to that. So, yeah, I enjoy going through this stuff because it makes me think about things in a different way. It provides me some insights on how AI is used in different, potentially used in different industries, different markets. Um, and then another thing about reading, I know Mark Cuban talked about this in his book. When you read a book is the cheapest way to gain knowledge. And when you read a book, even if you spend $10 for it, 20, $30 for it, you get an idea. That idea can make you a lot of money. Right. And especially with this type of topic, there's not a lot of politics in it. It kind of just is what it is. Um, of course, there's going to be biases, but yeah, either that's the nice thing about technology. It doesn't care what your political bent is. The engineering process, software development process, hardware development process, uh, it's just that it does not care. You got test and validate, test and validate. Anyway, I've exhausted this article, and that's it. That's all for today. Um, yeah, it's been really interesting. We'll add this to our set of knowledge as we go forward in other articles, and we'll keep exploring the idea of AI in different industries and different business models. And of course, previous article we saw, AI and math integrated into education, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. So, anyway, have a wonderful morning, day, or evening, no matter where you are. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.